G'day, I'm Mark Valencia from Self-sufficientme.com. I spent 21 years in the army and now I'm living the dream by being as self-sufficient as possible. And welcome to another episode of If I Can Do It, You Can Do It.
Hello, Mark.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, everyone.
How are you?
Yeah, great.
Great?
Really great.
Super duper.
Yep.
It's a busy time, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Is it true that you've been punching your cabbage over the weekend?
Very therapeutic it is, yes. I've been punching my cabbages and I'd recommend that to anyone.
Now, why would you ever want to punch a cabbage?
Well,
what did it do to you?
It just made me angry. No, they grew terrific this year. My mammoth rock cabbages, the red ones, the big red ones, grow bigger than your head, some of them.
So they grew over that planting in the winter, did you, or
yes.
late winter?
Well, plant them through winter, let them mature into spring, and of course you want to be pulling them out before summer hits because they'll just get, well, they'll probably go to seed, but they'll get ruined and the insects will hit them. Yeah. But if you grow them through our winter time, which is, traditionally in a normal climate, you'd grow in a temperate climate, you'd grow them through spring into summer. But if you grow them through our winter, the insects don't hit them as hard, and they grow terrific. Yeah, so I've harvested them and I'm making sauerkraut, and I'm preserving some of them just in the crisper, because a cabbage, like if you put a whole cabbage in the crisper of your fridge, it can last like a couple of months.
Right.
They used to store cabbages in the old days in the cellars, before refrigeration, and
you can't fit much else in a crisper after you put a cabbage in there, I imagine. They're huge.
Well, you just have to make room for it.
Yeah. So how many cabbages did you get?
Oh, about 5 or 6.
Okay.
But we'd been eating them through the season. If you cut them early, you can get 2 or 3 heads regrow back onto that one plant.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 or 3 small heads, and they're just beautiful and tender as well.
So you just chop them?
Yeah, so you harvest the smaller heads through winter, 1 or 2 of your plants, and then you let the rest mature, and then I'll leave one at least stay through into end of spring, summer, so that it goes to seed, so that I can harvest the seed later. Yeah, so that's how I progress it. And if you harvest some of the plants early, by this time again, you'll have 2 or 3 small cabbage heads that you can give away or use or eat or whatever,
Very good. Yeah. I like that. Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't done a cabbage yet. I have to have a go at that. I should invite if you're listening this morning to join in our conversation. If you've got some sauerkrauting tips and adventures, I know people do lots of pickling and fermenting, so please join in. 1300 903 222. Mark Valencia's here. You're with Rob Blackmore. We're talking fermentation, sauerkrauting. 1300 903 222. So you've got your purple cabbage. At what point do you start punching it?
Yeah, you can get all complicated when you're making sauerkraut and add bay leaves and herbs and spices and go to kimchi and all that type of thing and really Korean type fermenting. But I'm into all that as well. But the simple sauerkraut is the best for me, and even making it out of a red cabbage, which I haven't done before, I think is because you get that purple, those antioxidants from that purple veggie, and I'm thinking that's going to even make it better with all those fermentation bacteria, that lactobacilli that we all need more of in our diets. Yeah. I thought, with the purple cabbage, it's going to be really good.
Clever.
And so it's a pretty simple process. All it is some sea salt, the fine sea salt, a jar that you're going to ferment it in, just washed out, doesn't have to be sterilised, just has to be clean, and a good old fist. Well, you can get now. I have to admit, by the end of 4 kilograms of cabbages, my fist was starting to get a bit sore, and I'm a fairly big guy.
You are,
and even my wrist was starting to hurt. So
in the jar?
Yeah, in the jar. So you need a wide mouth jar, or traditionally, like in Europe, they have these clay pots with a big clay lid and a moat around the top of the pot, so that you fill that with water and you put the lid on top. That lets the carbon dioxide, when it's fermenting, lets the carbon dioxide escape through that clay lid, through the water, bubbling away, but no oxygen can get back in, so it doesn't spoil.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, so you have this nice wide jar, and you shred the cabbage first, cut the core out, get rid of the big hard bits, and then you shred it nice and fine with a knife. You can buy cabbage shredders, but I wouldn't. You don't need to. A nice sharp knife. knife, really finely shred it, put that in a bowl, and then you just grab handfuls of it, 2 or 3 inches at a time, maybe 3 inches, push it into the jar, then get a little bit of sea salt. I don't actually have a recipe for how much salt per how many kilograms of cabbage. I just go by eye. So I get a few pinches and just sprinkle it on top like you're sprinkling some salt onto anything.
Yeah.
And just a few pinches on top, and then get your fist and you punch it down. And just keep punching around, turning the bowl around.
And what are we doing with the punch?
You're bruising the cabbage, you're mixing the salt in, and you're activating all that bacteria and everything all together.
Yeah.
And then that water starts coming out after about the 3rd or 4th layer, because you can it's amazing how much sauerkraut or cabbage you can fit into a small jar by pounding it down like this.
Yeah.
It's heaps of fun.
And so water ratio?
No water.
No water?
No, because the pounding motion, after about the 3rd or 4th layer, you'll start to feel the water coming out of the cabbage. And by about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, the jar the cabbage is then covered in its own juices, in its own water.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you weigh that down, because every time you put a bit more cabbage in and pound it down, you add a little bit more salt.
Yeah.
So you just keep doing that process.
Yeah.
And in a 2-litre jar, you might do this about 10 or 12 times, and then you'll leave it for about 1 inch from the top. It'll be covered in its own juice. This will take a while to work. That's why.
I assume you can use somebody else's fist or a wooden object or something.
Exactly. You can get specific wooden sauerkraut cabbage bashers.
Oh, I like that.
And by the end of mine, I actually had to go and grab the old pestle from the mortar and pestle. I had to be a bit careful in the clay pot.
True.
Because you don't want to break it or anything. But I just ran out of fizz.
I need a bigger mortar and pestle myself. Mine's too small.
Same.
You've got a small one too.
I know. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Size is so important when we talk about these things, because the bigger mortar you have, the more chilies and goodness you can get in there.
And the better, more easier it is to bash it too.
Yes.
Like when I was in Thailand, they had these big wooden pots. With nice.
I want one of them.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
I don't know where you can get them from, but that's what I want too.
So anyway, we've got why 1 inch from the top?
Well, because if you're using a jar, you're going to have a airlock on top of that, and that airlock will go through the lid and probably about an inch or so, or maybe a few centimeters.
This is the thing to let the gas out.
Yeah, let the gas out. So you put the lid on, but what you want to do is weigh that shredded cabbage underneath its liquid. So you can do that by grabbing a large cabbage leaf, folding it over, and squishing it into the top of the jar, and that'll keep the shredded cabbage underneath the juice. And then you put the lid on top with the airlock, a little bit of water in that airlock, and then that'll allow the carbon dioxide out and no oxygen in. And you leave it sit on the kitchen bench anywhere. It doesn't have to be in it doesn't have to be in a dark place. That's a myth. It can be just sitting on the kitchen bench. Leave it there for about 3 or 4 weeks. Probably start tasting it after about 2 weeks, because depending on the temperature, if it's the hotter it is, the faster it will ferment, basically. And then
you're not in danger of spoiling it if you open it up.
No, not really. No, you open it up
because it's underwater.
Briefly. Yeah. Open up briefly. Have a little bit of a taste, then put the lid back on, and once it's to a sort of sourness that you like, then you can bottle it, put it in 250ml jars or so, then whack it in the fridge, and that'll slow the fermentation process down.
So it's got to because that's the next question. How long would it last?
Well, I've had sauerkraut that lasted for 2 years.
In the fridge?
Yeah.
Not in the cupboard?
Not in the cupboard, no.
Because it keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It'll keep.
You can't stop it in some way? You can't put anything in it, or?
Well, you could heat treat it. And a lot of the stuff you get in the shops would be heat treated, but then you kill everything in it, all the good bacteria. And the whole aim is, yes, you're preserving cabbage, but the biggest thing is the benefits, the health benefits of eating something like this fermented type food.
What's in the cabbage that does this? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good question. One of the cabbage, for some reason, is one of the best foods, like it's a magnet for this type of bacteria, the good bacteria that's good for us. For some reason, cabbage, it likes to go onto cabbage and sit on cabbage. And then when we work it this way and put it in this environment, a no oxygen environment, and ferment it, that's when this bacteria really comes into play and loves it. Yeah, so if you're fermenting any type of food, it's good to, throw a little bit of cabbage in with it, because you're sure enough going to have that good type of bacteria present on that food.
10 to 10. How are your mangoes?
Yeah, well, they're starting to, they're flowered again. A lot of them flowered early because we had that hot winter weather.
Spring, yep.
Yeah, and some of them flowered early, but they did have a second flowering, a lot of them, and they are budding now, which is good, and the fruit is starting to set, which is promising.
Copper fungicide?
Yeah, look, I really hate spraying anything in the garden. I don't spray anything in the garden except for this copper spray, because even though I've gone out of my way to purchase mangoes that are really resistant to anthracnose and black spot, for the life of me, if you can't get a good number of mangoes if you just don't spray at all.
Right.
I've tried this over many years, over the last decade actually, of not spraying at all, and of spraying just as they flower with a copper fungicide, and I've found that spraying is the best way to get a good crop of mangoes. There's no other way around it.
Copper fungicide stuff?
Yeah, it's a copper-based...
stops the black spot, does it?
Yeah, stops the fungal diseases that if you don't hit it while the mango is flowering, you won't get any mangoes set. Well, you can, and certain varieties will set 1 or 2 mangoes, even the black spot resistant varieties, like the Kwan and the Namdok Mai, which is an Asian mango. Yeah. They have a good defense against anthracnose and that, but you still get a better setting if you give them a hit at flowering with a copper fungicide. Yeah, and I add a little bit of washing detergent, a few drops, into the spray mix, and that helps that fungicide stick to the plant. And look, I don't go by the actual recommendations. I don't spray frequently. I just do it once at flowering and maybe once after fruit set, about 6 weeks later, and then I don't spray again.
Right.
Because I don't care if the mangoes, as they're getting large, get a few black spots on them or anything like that. I just cut them off when we eat them. That doesn't worry me. So I don't overuse it for health reasons, one, and B, for monetary reasons. I don't think it's necessary.
So you what's your approach then to I don't know, do you pest weeds that you want to get rid of or anything? You just get a bit of steam on them? What do you use? Hot vinegar? You dig them out? There's no pesticides, huh?
Yeah, vinegar. Vinegar's...
That really strong stuff? Have you seen that? You get a really strong vinegar. Like, I think it's got a term about how it's not the white vinegar in the kitchen. It's a different kind of vinegar.
Oh,
You've not heard about that?
No, I haven't.
We tried to find it because it's something we were looking at.
Oh, really?
And it's a very strong mix. And so you will literally, because I don't think white vinegar will do too well if you just spray it on a weed. It won't get everything.
Yeah. Well, so what are you trying to weed? Between your veggies or along fence lines?
Pavements. Veggies. Yeah. God.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. I don't know how they get there. They seem to just get there, don't they?
Well, I just spent half the weekend pulling weeds out of one of my long garden beds. And yeah, that's just part of gardening though.
Yeah.
And we just... it's just such a prolific environment we live in for weed growth.
Yeah, I spoke to someone about that the other day. That was they said Queensland, it's the epicenter of pests and weeds,
What are they, those cobbler's pegs?
Yeah, we got them.
They are awful.
Got them. The one that I don't like, it's got a little kind of furry tendril at the end, and it's got a spiky stem. And they sort of just keep going and expanding.
Yeah.
And they get bigger and bigger and thicker and spikier and spikier. They're almost like a bougainvillea. I hate bougainvilleas. Don't get me started on bougainvilleas.
Yeah, I wrote an article a while back about how I hate weeds, and I got a lot of feedback.
There's a great guy at Noosa Landcare, Phil Moran. We'll get him back on. We had a great time earlier in the year. He knows every weed there is, and he knows how to get it too. He calls it's a war. He said sometimes you let them grow. Sometimes you just want, you don't fight them.
Well, a lot of people like eating them.
Oh, which ones? What, the cobbler's pegs?
Dandelion or whatever. Don't quote me on this because I don't want anyone eating something getting poisoned. But, that's the feedback I got was, jeeps, Mark, there's so many good weeds out there, you can eat them all. And I said, well, I'd rather eat broccoli.
Yeah,
honest.
Ideally.
If only it grew like a weed.
Bit more nutrient. Finally, splitting native beehive season.
Yeah, this is...
Of course it is, yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I'm no expert on keeping native bees. My uncle is, and he keeps native bees on my property because I get all the benefits of the bees pollinating our flowers, the vegetables and the fruits and all that. So we've got 18 native beehives in our property now.
Right.
And he went to split them because in October is about the season after the spring. And
what kind of box are they in?
In a little box, probably about a foot by a foot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And he makes them?
Yeah, he makes them.
Makes the beehive?
Yeah.
Right.
And what you can do then is put an empty half beehive onto the full one, and after you've cut it in half, and then you can make 2 hives out of one, sort of thing. And
so he's done that 18 times?
Well, he only did it 6 times because, unfortunately, not all the hives are ready to be split. And you would have thought after this last spring and getting all the native flowers and the forest coming up, because we're back onto forestry, that there would have been enough pollen and food in the hives for them to be split. Because if you split a hive that doesn't have enough food in it, you could kill it. So you would have thought that, but we didn't see enough honey honey or pollen in all those hives to split them all. There was only 6 that were able to be split out of the 18, and we're worried. And we also saw a drop in bee numbers. We live about 100 metres away from a large strawberry farm, and we're worried that they're spraying with some pesticide, and the bees are visiting the strawberry flowers and dying. So that's a bit of a drama. We saw a lot of brood. A lot of where the bees are growing, but not a lot of worker bees and not a lot of honey being gathered. So hopefully that's just sort of it's not to do with the pesticide, but we're worried that it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Aren't they amazing, their hives?
Hives. They're just wonderful.
It's like an alien world.
Yeah, and stingless too.
Yeah. We're very happy to have found a few on the weekend. Actually, hadn't seen them at our place before.
Beautiful insects.
Oh, lovely to see them around. All right, mate. Well done. Anything further?
No.
Plans for this fortnight?
I'll just keep on working. I'm going to ferment kale.
You will be fermenting kale.
Yeah, I'll be doing
future tense, not past tense.
Yeah, I will be fermenting kale. Yeah.
And no more punching cabbage. You've done that.
I might punch some kale.
Punch some kale. You're fermenting the kale.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I haven't done that before. I have fermented kale with other vegetables, but not full on, just itself. I want to see how that goes.
All right. Check it out at selfsufficientme.com to see all of Mark's adventures and get some tips. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, Dirty. Thanks.
Mark Valencia.